Okay, I have some interesting videos to play for you. Let's start with Bernie Sanders. At a rally in Michigan yesterday, presidential candidate Bernie Sanders had a lot to say about marijuana. A lot of it was predictable and expected, but in his speech, he openly admitted to having smoked marijuana. He went into detail, saying he tried smoking pot twice in his life and that it made him cough a lot. Let's listen to Bernie commenting about his marijuana experiences.
Everybody here knows, I know, that heroin is a killer drug, and we got to stay away from heroin, and we got to do everything that we can to make sure our kids do not get addicted to heroin. We also know, and people can argue with us till the cows come home and scientists dispute it, marijuana is not heroin. Now, I'm not here advocating for marijuana. I've done marijuana twice in my life when I was very young. And what it did for me is it made me cough a lot. That was my response. But I gather other people have had different experiences. I don't know. Marijuana is listed as a Schedule I drug alongside of heroin. I agree. And that is why I believe we should take marijuana out of the federal control.
Okay, so let's break this down piece by piece, Lewis. First of all, the admission that he smoked marijuana twice. I mean, what you're supposed to say is, I did it once and I didn't inhale and it gave me a headache and, it's bad. This would have been a huge controversy years ago, and it still is to some people, but it's not to nearly as many people, right? I mean, who really cares? And the question I have for you is this not a big deal, broadly speaking, because it's Bernie and everybody sees him as a sort of hippie from Brooklyn and Vermont or whatever? Or is it not a big deal because just attitudes have changed drastically about marijuana?
Attitudes have changed drastically, and not just attitudes. People aren't afraid to lie about it anymore.
They're not afraid to lie about it.
Yes, about how their attitude towards marijuana, because as we know, there have been many hypocrites out there who use it and condemn it at the same time.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Okay, yes. And so certainly this is not an issue for anyone who is going to vote for someone with a D next to their name.
Right. Yeah, no, that's a fair point. And the real issue is the latter part of what Bernie talks about, right? The scheduling of marijuana as a Schedule I drug being used to put people, disproportionately non-white people, in prison. According to the DEA's website, Schedule I drugs are, quote, defined as drugs with no currently accepted medical use and a high potential for abuse. Schedule I drugs are the most dangerous drugs of all the drug schedules with potentially severe psychological or physical dependence. Who really believes that marijuana fits in that category, right? As you know, Lewis, I think smoking anything is bad for you, right? The act of smoking anything, even if you're smoking banana peels or whatever, right? I mean, the smoking is bad for your lungs. But how can anyone say that marijuana is in the same category as heroin? And how can anyone say marijuana fits that definition of a Schedule I drug?
Well, I agree. Don't inhale smoke. But you can eat this stuff. You can consume oils. You can vaporize any number of ways. And the benefits, Dave, are incredible. The stuff we are learning now about the medical applications of everything that is contained in pot is really incredible.
It amazes me how American politicians seem to be not only scared of having a history of drug use, but also scared of even saying that, hey, science actually knows quite a bit about both THC and the cannabinoids in marijuana. We know so much about what's going on, and there clearly are medicinal uses here. The extent to which we're going to be able to exploit these, whether marijuana is some kind of miracle drug or just another tool that we should have in our sort of satchel, for lack of a better proverbial term, that is sort of a debate that we can have. But shying away from saying there are obviously huge potential benefits here, some we've already seen on a smaller scale, it seems completely disconnected from reality.
Mm-hmm. And, Bernie's not going to convince conservatives by saying this type of thing.
No.
I think many of those conservatives believe that anyone who is using this stuff should be in prison.
Right, especially if you're not white.
Yeah, but what is going to speak to conservatives and Republicans is the financial aspect of this.
Do you think so?
And the revenue that their states can bring in by legalizing this stuff. How
I know, but
that?
here's the thing. When we talk, you would think that when you sit down a conservative, if they're against something, you could say, hold on a second, think of the money. And all of a sudden they go, oh, you know what? That makes sense. We've seen with issues of healthcare, health insurance, they don't seem to care that it's more expensive to have uninsured people who use the emergency room as their doctor's office, right? The financial argument doesn't seem to matter because of the morality that if you can't afford healthcare, you don't deserve to have it, and therefore you don't deserve to have treatment. That seems to hugely supersede the financial element. I know a lot of these liberal ideas are financially very, very conservative, but the conservatives don't seem to care.
Well, I think what you're going to see as more states legalize this stuff is powerhouse companies like the big tobacco companies. I believe they are going to start lobbying for the legalization of recreational use because they have the most to gain, and their lobbying power, as we know, is incredible.
We will follow it, you know that.